It's live.
Okay,
I'll
going live
share it
now.
on Beer Asia.
You're going
Great.
live now, Ollie.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey everyone. It's great to have a few of you starting to join. I know we've just gone live a little late. Our apologies about that. Some technical hiccups. It's always good fun trying to navigate Zoom and see what's going on and trying to kind of navigate this. So it's great to have a few of you starting to join in. Just to kind of introduce, and as people are starting to log on and starting to join the session, I kind of wanted to kind of briefly do a brief introduction in a moment. If you just give us about 30 seconds to wait for a few people to join in. What I think we can do as well is just wait for a moment. I'm just going to share this on my page as well. And so we're going to be basically talking with Gautham, who's sitting here, dialing in from Assam. So he'll be sharing a bit about his journey from being a lawyer to a brewer extraordinaire across multiple continents. So it's I think today's session will be quite exciting. Again, welcome everyone who's joining in. I think we're just going to wait for a moment for a couple more people to sign in first, and then I'm just going to share this as well on a couple of different pages as well. Cool. So to introduce the session, and before we begin the interview proper, I just wanted to introduce the Asia Brewers Network for those of you who maybe haven't heard of us before. So we're a portal dedicated to delivering brewing news, insights, and analysis around the whole beer industry and everything to do with industry trends and educational opportunities to brewers around Asia. And so the whole idea of what we're doing in these kind of sessions is we want to keep people updated on the latest industry trends so you can make better decisions for your business. Even if you're not working in the beer scene and you're interested in beer, we can be a resource for you as well to discover new trends and new things happening in the world of craft. And if you haven't heard of ABN or unfamiliar with its connection to other activities in the beer scene, ABN is actually from the team behind Seabrew, which is the region's biggest beer industry conference and trade fair. It's also behind Brew Asia technical sessions and the Asia Beer Championship as well. So what we're going to be doing in these ABN beer talks, and I'm very excited today, by the way, because today is the first ABN talk. And we thought we'd bring someone on who's a very interesting and well-informed speaker who's got some insights from a couple of different markets in the region. And this session will actually be the first in a series of ABN beer talks in the coming weeks and months. So essentially, we want to interview brewers, we want to interview cool people doing interesting things in the beer retail space, really anything to do with the world of beer. But without further ado, I wanted to introduce all of you to my friend, Gautham Gandhi, who's the founder of the Singularity Beer Project, brewing project. Gautham was a lawyer, or is a lawyer. I think he's still, he hasn't been struck off just yet for his beer activities. And Gautham is someone I met when I was in Vietnam, where I'm currently based. And Gautham was actually brewing here with our Pasteur Street Brewing Company, but now is back in India and doing some really exciting things in the world of beer. He's a founder of a beer project. Gautham, it's great to have you on ABN Talks.
Great to be here, man, Ollie. So looking forward to the session.
I understand that right now you're in Assam, building a brewery, one of the first breweries in Northeast India.
Yeah. So I got a call a few weeks ago that there's a brewery getting set up in Assam. And once things fall in place, I can start brewing over here. So I thought, why not? No, this is going to be Northeast India's first brewery. So that was the most exciting part about coming over. And another part was a lot of crazy ingredients to play around with.
Cool.
So Northeast has got a lot of tropical flora and fauna. So we're going to do a lot of innovative things over here.
And I understand the Northeast has some indigenous brewing traditions as well, right? There's some of the hill tribes there have kind of local rice spirits or rice beer, that kind of thing.
It's in a few states in the Northeast. It's really low on the alcohol, but yeah, it's got that solid rice notes going on. So I'm not the biggest fan of using a lot of rice in my brews, but I want to be like a pure guy. But but yeah, I'd prefer using more malts and other sugars I can actually extract some alcohol out of.
No, that's awesome. No, it's really exciting to be that you're kind of pioneering brewing in a state, in one of the states where I know craft beer is pretty new. But I mean, on that subject, right? Because that's one of the things I think a lot of people who haven't been to India or really dived into India, they don't understand just India is this insanely diverse collection of basically states that are and cultures and languages and people and different faiths and let alone culinary traditions and alcohol traditions. I mean, if we do step back right now and look at the state of beer, if you were to describe the state of beer in India today, in October 2020, kind of in the midst of COVID, where is India as a whole? I mean, can you even describe it as such, or do we need to dive into it state by state?
Like on the whole, I think it's pretty simple to explain. So when it comes to craft beer in India, it's mainly concentrated to the brew pubs, like where sales are not allowed off premise. So multiple states around India, for example, Haryana, then Maharashtra, then Karnataka, West, now Assam, a few more states, all have laws in place brew pubs. And COVID obviously was a harsh time for many brewers around the world. So we had some states actually, like the local chapter, like the local Brewers Association, tried to go pitch to the government that we need to start a growler policy as such. So the first states to actually was Maharashtra. Then Karnataka briefly allowed it during the lockdown phase, but now it's on-premises sales. What I recently heard is West Bengal is also. So Maharashtra, you can actually keg it, sell to multiple restaurants or bars and all, which is not allowed in other places. So now, Maharashtra, I mean, like Bengal is even allowing bottling now. So you can actually bottle your craft brews now on premise.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
yeah. So yeah. Sorry, I cut out for a second. Go on. I'm really interested to hear more about this.
So I'm pretty sure like a lot of states are also lobbying and brewers in a lot of states are lobbying to do this. But when it comes to that, it's the lobby between how do I put it, like David and Goliath. So it's like you being small brewers doing about X amount of beers trying to come up with the big guys. But now obviously, the government's able to understand that because they cannot discriminate. So slowly things are moving on the progressive way. So that's what we're all hoping that every state follows these examples of like Maharashtra, Goa, West Bengal, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the things that India has been a bit of a sleeping giant, right, in the world of beer. Like it's taken time. It's taken time for the regulations to, I guess, catch up to the consumer demand. But I think now that things are liberalizing, right, and as you were saying, now that, for instance, I mean, let's talk about growlers for a minute. It's really interesting because I noticed, reading brewing news in India and reading the updates on what's happening, there was quite a lot of excitement around growlers. My question on that would be: is the consumer side, the drinkers side, are they ready for it? Was it releasing pent up demand, or is it more of an education thing about getting people to stop? Because using growlers is a bit of a change, right, from either drinking bottles of beer, commercial beer, or going to the brew pub. Is it a trend that's taking off in your view?
So during the COVID time, I think that's one of the best things people is if you don't want to go sit down at the brewery and then time drinking or something, what you can just do is and take it back home. It's going to pick up in the future because of this whole social distancing norms. But me, I prefer going down and drinking it. And there's obviously a lot of education also involved with growlers, because when we give someone a growler, it's not that it should be sitting down for 2-3 days and then you probably leave it in your car and it's getting really hot in India and it goes up and then you're blaming the brewery or something. So with the growler, obviously there's a lot of responsibility, and along with that, there's a lot of consumer education needed around that side.
I mean, in terms of brew pub growth, right? I'd seen a number that was being batted around earlier this year that there are several hundred brew pub licenses now actively in India. I mean, is that growth? I mean, who's really driving? Where is that growth coming from?
So the main problem was a lot of people who were not really dedicated towards craft and who have a very straightforward business mentality were actually not very real to what they're doing, many of them. So we only have a handful of them who are actually brilliant and who want to take things in a more crafty way. The rest are there only just to get into for the money aspect of things. But luckily what we saw, the ones who are going to stay after COVID are going to be the ones who are actually wanting to make a change and make brilliant beers. I mean, when I say brilliant beers, it's about making more innovative beers in a way to connect to the local audiences. So we can't be sitting in India and keep saying that, don't get it wrong. I have a lot of, I have great respect to a lot of brewing traditions, but it's about, figuring out what our brewing traditions are. And recently, while I was reading about some culinary history of Delhi, I realized before some invaders came into India, there was a beer called Fuka, which was made around, was fermented barley, which is made around the Delhi geography. So I've been trying to get to these historians and try to recreate that kind of a recipe to show people that, boss, we can do it over here. We shouldn't keep sticking to oh wait, they make good beers. Learn from them, put our ingredients in place and come out with something more brilliant. Because when people keep talking about the complexity of an Indian palate, and a lot of people, a lot of brewers, businessmen brewers, keep telling me that, oh no, if you make certain style, the Indian palate is not going to get it. Things are too complex. But I think in a way that Indian food itself being so complex, and if there's some minute mistake happening in the food, someone can actually pick what's wrong, and what's, excess in terms of usage of spice or what's low. So our food is so complex. So the palate is there. The palate is not being actually discovered properly yet.
Yeah, that's something that I find really interesting. And I think, I love what you're talking about, right? About developing an indigenous craft beer styles, using local ingredients, as you mentioned at the start of the discussion. And I think, the whole idea of, kind of almost decolonizing the brewing scene in a way, right? Which I know you and I have discussed this before about fixation on the Reinheitsgebot and on German brewing, German or equally American brewing traditions, and that kind of being seen as the benchmark. I mean, are there any brewers in India now who are what you're, besides you, as I know you're very interested in this stuff, are there any examples of kind of new Indian styles or really unique ingredients that you're seeing being used?
So, for example, the wheat beer I plan to make over here, instead of using orange peel, I'm going to be using the local lemon, which is called the king lemon. It's pronounced as Goduraj or Gonduraj. Have plans to make a stout with local indigenous chilies, like the world's spiciest. We're going to smoke them and then put them in a stout. So as of now, breweries in Bangalore and Maharashtra are being excessively innovative about the things they're doing. For example, there's a brewery called Great State Ale Works. They do a brilliant Bajra Pale Ale. And in the same way, there are a lot of good brewers around that area doing a lot of great things. But the whole point is these guys are independent and they're not available outside one state. So locally, when you see the impact, people in Pune and around saw that connection to the local scene. And people got more influence to drinking craft over there. So that wasn't happening in Delhi. In Delhi, people are more stuck to let's keep drinking. It was all about the wheat beer fantasy, that's what I call it. So people are exploring something. So I made a test batch of some mango lassi IPA. So it was sour milkshake, mango. I just went a little crazy. It was smelling like blue cheese during fermentation. Then overall, that's what is supposed to be coming out. Because these guys in Pune and etc., they don't can their products. They don't bottle their products. So, they cannot get it around the country to influence the rest also to do the same.
Why not? Why aren't people canning and packaging?
So they're not legally allowed to do that. their packaging ends at only kegging and selling growlers, but they can't go beyond that.
In Maharashtra, or is that quite a common
It's
rule across different
pan-India,
states?
It's pan-India. So this was the first time where I just heard yesterday that Bengal is going to allow bottling of craft beer. But the problem with Bengal is it's highly taxed. It's close to about, I think, somewhere about $2 a liter tax.
Wow. I mean, and that's something that, we've talked about, and I know we actually had a question about taxes in India. And I know that there was a change in the excise tax, right, recently. And frankly speaking, it was very, very, very complicated for me to understand. It was like, so the tax changes this year broadly, are they going to be good for craft brewers or bad?
They're actually going to be much better for craft brewers. And they're going to work out really well because someone buying a growler knows the difference between going to a bottle shop and picking up a bottle of the bird or the monkey or something like that, or getting something really brilliant otherwise.
Well, that's interesting. So in terms of, I mean, from a packaging standpoint, though, do you see, what's happened in Bengal? Do you see those changes being carried through into other states, into Maharashtra, or,
So Bengal is even creating a level of helping things online sales. So now Amazon and Bengal is what I heard is selling alcohol now, which was never allowed in India earlier. And Maharashtra is allowed online sales. So me as a brewpub or a microbrewery, I don't need to distribute a channel. I can do my direct sales. So it helps because they're changing the 3-tier structure into like a direct to a consumer structure.
And from a D2C perspective, right? I mean, India is one of the world's leaders. I mean, with people like Reliance and what GeoMart's doing, and in terms of the IT world, right? India's got the most engineers coming out of IITs and IIMs every year. There's a lot of very smart people. But in the D2C space, are brewers taking on digital? Are they, are they doing, besides growlers, are they actually doing interesting things to create demand, like using mobile, using social media, using e-commerce?
Even Single Project even is developing an app also. So we're under the works of that. Then as soon as sales were announced in a few states, every third guy is building an app because it's in. So everyone's building an app. So now there's so many apps to do an online order. So now Swiggy or Zomato in India, or the same equivalent as Grab Food in Vietnam, can also act as a distributor. I mean, as a retailer for. Actually, they go pick it up from a retailer and get it to you. So I don't see that driving in the best way. But I hope it works out in a better why should only one guy have the whole chunk of everything? It should be shared in the market.
Yeah, I mean, it worries me a little bit when I hear Amazon coming in to do it, right? Because it means, Amazon is the king of data, right? They know what people want, and they're obviously, they're able to predict things. But changing tax a bit, right? Because, we've been talking about the industry and the scene. And I think for a lot of people overseas watching, either watching live or watch later, I think what you've been sharing is a really good primer for the current state. I mean, from an individual perspective, you recently came back from Vietnam and you spent some time brewing in Vietnam. How would you, what did you learn in that experience? What did you enjoy most? And yeah.
So the biggest thing, what I was talking about earlier, Vietnamese brewers in Vietnam are actually connecting to the locals. In terms of for example, Pasture Street using every beer with a local ingredient. And most of them are trying to do something very they're trying to explore their options in terms of innovations over there. So that's the change. I mean, the difference I saw over there and over here. Over here in India, if there's a more imported product, even though it comes to India in the worst condition ever possible, people would actually want kind of a product than getting something local. So there's also a colonial thought process a lot of customers have, which is changing, but it's not changing at a pace where the whole industry could change. So we can't see that entire change happening in 3 to 5 years. We see it gradually as people start appreciating something more homegrown as things progress. And that's going to happen for sure, because there are a lot of homegrown brands which are doing really well abroad also. And yeah, maybe they're not making the best, but they're able to at least tell people there's something different than your average regular beer. So it's that connection what I saw in Vietnam, which I want to bring into India, where the consumer is more happy about what he's able to understand and able to connect with what he's drinking.
Yeah, no, I mean, and being based in Vietnam, I totally understand what you mean. And I do think from observation, that is one thing that India seems a little weaker on, is it seems to be very introspective, a local, like state by state oriented, right? Which I guess is also a function of the laws. But yeah, it is interesting, right? Because there are brewers like Pasteur Street, where you worked, right? You were actually brewing there, right? And Heart of Darkness, and a handful of others who've actually become, export, quite, they've not only developed for the domestic market, but they've been able to sell their beers in Singapore, Malaysia, the United States, Australia. I mean, on that part, right? And, coming back from Vietnam to India, besides the styles, what else do you think the Indian brewing scene could maybe learn from the Vietnam brewing side? Because without a doubt, right, Vietnam is, I mean, I know I'm biased because I'm here, but it's pretty obvious Vietnam is really a bright spark, or even globally. India has not got that same recognition. What do you think the scene could do better to get that recognition globally?
So yeah, main thing is like, consumer education is going to be very important. And someone getting into the business should be able to take that risk, even if he's trying to cover up his cost by selling two beers, which is going to make him run his operations. He's got to keep innovating and keep getting into the heads of the consumers, because that premium market does exist in India. But the concept, for example, like Gurgaon, like a suburb of Delhi, had, I still doubt what's happening right now over there, over like 50, 55 brew pubs around the time it was shutting. A single market called Sector 29 in Gurgaon had over 30 brew pubs or plus. But the issue was,
wow, that's crazy.
so yeah, they were consulting it out to like the same amount of brewers everywhere, like the same guys doing beers in 5 or 6 or 7 places. So the beers are exactly same. There's no difference.
Right. So how are they doing it? Were they using one contract brewery, white labeling everything, spinning it out, basically?
So they consult to multiple places.
Right. Okay.
So there was not a lot of innovation coming out over there, but so that innovation would have been much better if the owner came and said, "Boss, I want a beer like this from you as a brewer." But the owner was just happy if the place is running fine, because the person who initially put money into that business is not thinking beer. He just wants to make his buck and leave. So there's no healthy competition like the way it exists in Vietnam, where, oh wait, you're going to use this ingredient and make a beer like this. I'm going to use this ingredient and make another beer like this. So that's the kind of like local touch that competition brings in Vietnam, which is really lacking over here.
Well, that's really interesting. I've noticed that, even in some of the, I mean, I try and follow Indian news reasonably frequently, and it was surprising how some brewers, there was already a lot of money being invested in India, right? It seemed like the capital had kind of had come into the market. But, I mean, I guess on a similar note, right, in terms of, why do you think it is that craft beer is seen as big money in India? Do you think, is it that, for instance, expatriate Indians are bringing back the traditions from, not the traditions, the brew culture from the States? Someone works abroad for a while, or for NRIs getting interested, and then someone detects that it could be worth money. Because what I'm trying to understand, right, is there actually a lot of money to be actually made? And, you were talking about these brew pubs in Gurgaon, right? Huge numbers. Are they actually profitable, or is it kind of speculative?
They're not really profitable. I'll tell you what happened. Like the policy in Haryana, Gurgaon came in 2010, that time. And it was when the huge the real estate boom also was happening. So a lot goes into like someone who's made a lot of money by selling something which was a farmland earlier as a commercial site, made a lot of money from the government or from the builders or the construction guys. So these guys have a lot of disposable cash lying around. So a lot of them as a probably like a status thing, or you're opening one, I want to open another one. that rat race happened around that time, not knowing what's actually going into beer or how it's supposed to be done. For example, like some places have a 40-page menu card, have 4 beers, and they're confused between being like a fine dine restaurant, a nightclub, or a brewery. So they want to mix up everything together. So they're not really clear.
I mean, on the food part, right? Because I'm those of you who know me who are listening, I love Indian food, and I eat it. I actually eat it every day, pretty much. Probably once or twice a day if I have it my way. I mean, is anyone really driving food pairing? Because you were touching on it before, right? About the flavors of the vast palate.
So I have a friend. He's a certified restaurant, Andeep, and I think he's India's only certified restaurant. Like a lot into. And all the last 3-4 years, I've been digging a lot and reading a lot about food pairing. So, for example, if I'm making beers in a particular place, I want to go through their menu. I want to be like, please don't serve this with this beer. For example,
tell me some hints. I want to know for my what I can have. I mean, what are some great pairings you've experienced?
IPA goes brilliant with chicken tikka masala. And then if you want like something with a like a Haryali kebab or something like that, it goes brilliant with a wheat beer. And the wheat beer being one of the most sold beers in India, the Belgian wheats sell more because of the around that, instead of like the yeasty notes coming out from a hefe. So a lot of my pairings are, but then when it comes to a stout, something more barbecued, smoked actually. So Northeast India is what I realized, they smoke their meats a lot. So there's a huge smoking culture over here. Like so I'd pair a stout along with that, or a porter, or a dessert along with that. So I've been reading a lot of and trying to see the way he does things. So because I'm pretty sure if I drop him a mail, he'd be like, Indian food, I can't just put it like that. It changes all around the country.
Right. I mean, one thing that I've been seeing that's quite interesting, and I guess this was more of a pre-COVID development, was that Goa was starting to get quite an interesting beer scene emerging there. And see, I mean, Goa is such a unique part of India, right? In terms of culinary tradition, in terms of cultural history, in terms of, Portuguese colonization, but also how that impacted culture and cuisine. Is Goa going to remain as one of the bright spots, do you think? Or is COVID going to impact that heavily?
So COVID did obviously impact the Goan breweries a lot, mainly because a lot of breweries were actually on. So not like you won't find a lot of locals in which are when they go over with the hype and the good stuff and the innovative stuff these breweries are doing, they'd want to go try them out. But I'm sure they impacted on a bigger scale because some of them are even applying for a bottling license. So Goa also you can bottle. Goa also allows bottling.
And is that why? Is it the Goan Brewing Project, right? That was doing quite well.
Goa Brewing Company.
Goa Brewing Company, because I know they had some quite nice. I'd seen some of their bottles over the last prior to COVID.
They make some good beers. They make some innovative beers. But
and are they distributing? I mean, are they distributing around to Mumbai, for instance, or around Maharashtra?
They're doing it in Maharashtra. They're doing it in Karnataka. But I'd really want them to be in Delhi. But the issue with Delhi is Delhi being a city-state, Delhi doesn't have its own breweries. So the excise department has got to make money out of label registration. So if it's about 1.5 million rupees to register a label in in Delhi, it's going to be about 100,000 to 200 or 300,000 in other states. So it's really high. So if a company like a Goa Brewing Company has got 4 variants, if they want to do 4 variants, they'll be spending about 6 million rupees a year to register the label.
And why is Delhi so conservative about that? Is it about just
like a lot of breweries, like the mega breweries or the big breweries in India, what they see Delhi more than like a profitable market as a more marketing market. So they know they won't make money over there, but they know they'll get a lot of coverage out from there, which is going to drive sales throughout the country.
Yeah, because I would have thought Delhi would be such a critical metro to be successful in, right? If you wanted to drive scale and really drive growth. But I mean, on the macro side, I mean, are the big breweries, are they? I've heard that they've started releasing some, I guess, inspired by the success of Bira, and I want to talk about Bira in a minute. But have the macro guys, like the Kingfishers of the world, have they started releasing, their own kind of craft variants?
They are trying for sure, because Kingfisher came out with something like a Belgian themed wheat beer. And
Wow.
yeah, and ABN Bev in India started a subsidiary called Seven Rivers Brewing, and as of now they do wheat beers again. And so it's a wheat beer. It's a Belgian wheat beer
What's
with
why?
banana and character. So
Why so
wow.
many wheat beers? What's up with this? Every time I talk to people in India, they're like a wheat beer, a wheat beer, a wheat beer. I'm like, where are the pale ales and all this? Where are the IPAs?
So I think some beer companies actually who can actually have a bigger distribution got the message of an IPA in a wrong way to a lot of people in India. So the ones who tried those are actually disgusted by an IPA, and then when they try a proper IPA, then that transitioning is happening at a slower rate, because they already expect something else which wasn't drinkable, and now they expect something different happening. So yeah.
And I guess that goes back to what you were saying earlier about consumer education, right? And I
Yeah.
guess it's so difficult. That's such a difficult thing to do. I mean, who's leading the charge on that in India? Are there any breweries, like for instance, Bira? I mean, is Bira putting a lot of investment into marketing and education domestically?
Education, absolutely not. And I don't think anyone who's in the bottling game in India is trying to do that. But the major education is happening through brewpubs, through
Like Friends of
microbrews.
Froth as well?
Sorry?
Friends of Froth, right? I
Yeah,
mean, the,
Friends
the
of
Facebook
sure.
group, I mean,
Friends
if anyone's
of
watching, by the way, Friends of
yeah.
Froth is the best Facebook group. If you want to understand beer in India, it's really the one place to go. Really, isn't it, Gautham? I mean, it's
And
the place to be.
it was started by a late friend of mine, John Epen. And yeah, he had the vision actually to educate people, otherwise things won't change. And then as I get more and more into the business, I realized like that's how it's supposed to go. So we also do like Friends of Froth has got a subgroup called Certified Beer Server India Training. So me and a couple of my other friends and one of my partner, we all together take classes and like weekly classes on every Sunday, try to educate people, so that when the guys attending my class go around to drinking with their friends, they talk about beer, and then those guys want to understand. So that's how you help the industry, and that's how you make it grow. Because like I'm pretty like tired of drinking bad beer, so I know like if I'm able to influence a lot of people, I can actually hope that we can only get good beers in the future, and the real IPA is back in India again in the perfect way.
So I guess the education is it's very grassroots. It's bottom up right now.
Yeah, but the ones who know, they know their things really well, and they got to like really take on like explaining things to people in a way better way. For example, like Independence Brewing Company in Pune, they make one of the best beers in India. They run a thing called the boot camp every year, where people from all around come over for a couple of days just to understand beers, drink some beers, socialize. And many guys who actually found like breweries around or got into the beer business have been a part of IBC bootcamp. So like I wish like similar stance was taken by breweries pan India, where they're doing a yearly or like a quarterly event where they're actually trying to train the people who want to know more about beers. Not train, I'd say educate them in a better way. So that should be something the breweries should take time for. Otherwise, things are always going to be bad. Because unless the government realizes that, oh yeah, there's high potential in this industry and they're going to make me a lot of money in the future, they won't come on to our side and they won't let us do things in a more lenient way.
Yeah, and I guess the worry is also in any market, right, where craft beer is just taking off, is if there's a lot of bad beer in the market or beer that's not being stored correctly, and a consumer who's just tasting it for the first time, they taste bad beer and they're not, they don't understand the story behind it. I guess for some of those people, like what you mentioned before, maybe that's what happened with IPAs and pale ales, right? It kind of just permanently damages the reputation. of an entire beer style, or even of the entire craft beer scene. And I guess that's where people retreat back, don't they, to the things they know already, the Kingfishers and those kind of extra strong beers that India's famous for. At least you know what you're getting.
No, so the the massly available IPA in India was actually like compared to Kingfisher because people thought it's a strong.
Right.
It's like a commercial strong beer. Sorry, not the Kingfisher part. But yeah, they thought it's a more, it's like a regular strong beer because the strong beer market is the biggest market in India. So like, the strong beer market can be explored in a much better way. If you make them like a Belgian strong, Belgian golden strong, like, drink this. Why drink like, something with 90% rice?
Is anyone, because I mean, could you just briefly, for anyone listening from outside of India, just quickly explain that whole culture in India of kind of that, because it was really kind of like light normal beer and strong beer, right? That's always been the kind of main cut.
Yeah. So like usually like if someone wants a session for a longer time and want to like taste the beer a little more and with lesser adjuncts, they'd always go for the light beer. And most of the commercially available variants call these light beers in the premium segment. And then there's a strong beer where someone wants to drink probably chug a beer after work and then get the buzz in a while, not enjoying the beer. So that's how the segregation is made. So when you see the more rural parts of India, they'd want to go for something like you'll only get strong beers, but not light beers or beers which taste better. Obviously, you can have a brilliantly tasting strong beer, but that's not the point when it comes to commercial segments.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, because when I visited India, I was always strong beers, and I thought, oh, this is awesome. And I remember drinking one, and it was just this kind of punch to the face in terms of alcohol. Hey, so we've got the last kind of 5 or 6 minutes, or just before we wrap up. And by the way, Gautham, again, thank you for calling in. I know you're in the middle of an exciting project in Northeast India. But by the way, for everyone listening, Gautham told me he's planning on eating snails for dinner tonight.
Also, I have some articles coming up soon. I've been taking a while to do them because I've been just running around fixing this. So I'll get to you about that, Charles, soon.
No, but Gautham, I guess before we wrap up, right? I mean, I was really keen to hear. Okay, so you mentioned independence in Pune. Obviously, what you guys are doing as well is really interesting with Singularity. Who are the other? Are there any other breweries that you think deserve a bit more limelight, irrespective of state? Or are there any fascinating beers that you love that you would love to get more attention pan India?
So again, Pune, there's a brewery called Yavasura. They make a basil peppercorn wheat beer, which is brilliant. And then the Braggot from Bombay Duck. Then there's a local fruit called kokum, and around that part of Maharashtra, so a lot of kokum sour beers. So see, that's what, they're area specific again. Breweries are not pan India when it comes here. So the only way I can do that is, I can call my friend who owns one of the breweries. Hey, you want to come out to Delhi for a collab? Or should I come down to Pune for a collab? Like that. So there's a lot of beautiful stuff happening pan India in that way.
So on the collab culture, is that taking off now? I'm sure it must be, right?
It is taking off. It's taking off in a good way. And I hope, there are more and more collabs because the word collab can get more audiences more curious about things. So that's what's needed for the Indian craft beer scene also.
And so, I mean, looking to the future, now we don't have to we can gloss over India's situation. I know COVID it's been pretty grim there. And if anyone listening in India, obviously our full sympathies in the situation. I know it's not very much fun at all. But, for next year, I mean, assuming that COVID comes a bit more under control, what do you think the prospects are for the scene? I mean, what do you see really changing in 2021 onwards?
The way I see it, by the time things open up, the government is going to be pretty dry on funds and certain things. So they'll want to make liberalize alcohol laws in a way to get the exchequer filled. So I can't be appreciating I can't be very happy with what's happening, but I see that there's a better future to this comparatively, like what there was pre-COVID. So,
yeah. Oh, that's really positive to hear. I mean, yeah, and it makes sense, doesn't it, that someone's going to have to pay for all the spending or the stimulus spending, and I guess if stimulating the beer industry works, that's also that would be great. And I mean, for you know, if anyone is, I mean, I know there probably aren't going to be many people traveling to India for a little while. So really, it seems like Pune, Mumbai, Bangalore are the kind of interesting.
I'm going to be starting my breweries in Uttar Pradesh. They're going very liberal again with all the laws because of all the heavy investment coming into the city, coming into Noida, like in terms of Google, Microsoft, the huge Samsung plant and everything. So that's the reason I want to be there. So for now, they're allowing the takeaway policies, and I hope they don't stop it. And let's see what like the good talks bring in. So it's going to be more progress in that way.
And so when can we expect to taste one of your first beers brewed in Noida?
I'm hoping by summer next year, like somewhere at about the next IPL time, April, May.
Perfect timing, just so we can have a beer and watch a bit of cricket.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. Actually, the IPL is going on now, man, in Dubai.
Yeah, no, I've actually been. It's funny. I saw that. I was surprised it was even going again. I must admit I haven't caught any of the games. I'd absolutely love to though. So where are they actually playing it? I thought they're playing it in Dubai or they're playing it in India?
In UAE. They're playing in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah.
So they're not actually playing on greens in India. It's just purely in UAE.
If they do it in India,
well, it's not safe, right?
People like to for sure. It's cricket.
Right. Okay.
Even if there's a bunch of kids playing on the street, you know, you're going to stand around and stare at the cricket match.
Yeah.
Like that, so.
Well, you know what? I'm delighted that you know, no matter what, beer is still being made, and India is still playing cricket. It's two very important things to that's two pan-India important things. I'm relieved that both things are going on. So I think we're pretty much wrapping up for today's session. So Gautham, thanks again for joining ABN Talks.
Thanks for having me here, Oliver and Charles. So
yeah, no, look, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, man. Hope to like travel a bit, see you all like once things get better. So
yeah, no, there's an open invitation to Vietnam once the borders reopen.
Inspired, man. Vietnam is very inspiring when it comes to craft beer.
No, there's so much happening domestically. I think you'd love it. I think you'd be even happier when you're here. But even before, there's so many new breweries popping up. I think you'd have a field day coming here. You'd love it.
Nice. Got to do that soon, man.
But otherwise, thanks everyone for listening in. And if you've got any more questions for Gautham, I'm sure if you post underneath on the ABN Facebook page or wherever you're watching, he's very social media savvy, so he'll spot it. So if you've got any questions about beer in India, even that unique style he was talking about, which I should have asked him more about, that interesting historical style, pre-colonial, that he's going to be pioneering soon.
Right now, I just found the word. I'm trying to like the historian who was working around that is no more. So I'm trying to trace his assistants who are working with him on that.
You sound like your adventures to Vietnam and around northern India. You're like a modern day Indiana Jones, Gautham, you know, in the beer world, you know, discovering these ancient texts.
The commercial ones.
All right, hey mate, really appreciate it. You know, it's always lovely to catch up with you. It's always a nice chat.
Thank you for organizing this.
Best of luck with the brewery configuration in Assam, and stay healthy and stay well.
Cheers, man. Same to you. Stay safe, everyone. Stay healthy. Cheers.
All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been a pleasure on our first ABN Talks. We'll be doing more of these in the coming weeks and months, so we really hope to see you tuning in. And otherwise, have a great day and a great weekend ahead. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Bye.